just takes a second. Okay, we're live now.
Okay, folks, we're live streaming as of right now. We got 1 minute before we can call the meeting to order, but we are got the live stream set up. Welcome everyone this morning. Nice fresh rotten east wind. Get that snowblower tractor filled up again, Bob. I think you're going to need it.
Yeah, I'm tired of that. I filled it up there yesterday afternoon. I'm still tired of it.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
Doug, we cashing in on the salt sales.
Anyway,
No, it's not icy. We got to have an ice storm for salt sales. I pray for when the temperature goes up here on Saturday and Sunday. We get a bit of ice, maybe some freezing rain. Then I'm in.
I just eat my hydro. Anyway, we're going to call this meeting to order. First, we'll start with a moment of reflection. Thank you. Okay, next disclosure of pecuniary interest. You can do that now or at any point in time through the meeting. And next we'll have confirmation of the agenda, but before I read that motion, we got some changes to make. So we want to move other business to item 8 on the agenda. And we have item 6.1, which is a delegation. And that will be Mark Stone and Bill Mackey from MLS Planning and Upper Thames Conservation Authority. And then we'll have item 8.1, appointment to the Perth Health Alliance Board. And then we have item 10.1, which is a bylaw for single tier planning agreement. And we have item 10.2, that is a bylaw amending to appoint members to committees and boards for 2021. So if I could have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, that would be lovely. Moved by Daryl Hurlick, seconded by Matt Duncan. Those in favor? Carried. Perfect. Okay, we'll move on. We have consent agenda. And we have items 5.1 to 5.8 and the council minutes of February 4th, 2021. Does anyone want to see anything pulled? Councillor Hurlick.
5.4.
5.4?
Correct.
Okay. Do you want me to move that back down to further in the agenda, or do you want to discuss it now?
I will do it after.
Okay. We'll move that down. Part of other business, perhaps. Okay. Anyone else have anything they want to see pulled or discussed? Okay, I have a motion that council receives consent agendas 5.1 to 5.8 with the removal of 5.4 and approves the February 4th, 2021 council minutes. Moved by Doug Kellum, second by Walter McKenzie. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, so next we have, I believe we're going to have our delegation from MLS and Upper Thames. So they are making a delegation with regards to what's going on later, but they won't be actually part of the discussion later, so they're doing their presentation now. And
good morning.
Second, we'll get them up.
Good morning.
Stone, I see. And Bill Mackey, is that him in the bottom corner? Perfect. Okay. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you today?
Mr. Stone and Mr. Mackey, you're good to go.
Yes, and we do have a PowerPoint presentation. I believe staff will be displaying that, if I'm not mistaken. Or I can do the same if I'm given. Thank you. Great, thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. My name is Mark Stone. I'm with MLS Planning Consulting, and I'm representing the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority with respect to the application for county official plan amendment that is covered in a report later in today's agenda. I'll be providing a relatively brief presentation, and following that, Bill and myself are available for questions. Bill Mackey is here from the Conservation Authority. And we spoke, as you may recall, back to council back in December. And we just want to take this opportunity to reiterate the Conservation Authority's position and respond to some of the new information in the staff report before you. If we could move to the next slide, please. And so just as a reminder, back in the 1960s, the Conservation Authority purchased various farm properties in Perth South and West Perth as a land assembly as part of the, or anticipation of the Glengowan Dam and Reservoir project, excuse me. And so for decades, the CA, the Conservation Authority, has rented these properties to local farmers and has also maintained and separately rented existing dwellings on these properties. You may recall that from our last meeting that I explained that the Conservation Authority issues tenders for the rental of these properties. Each successful bidder is required to enter into a farm lease for a period of generally up to 5 years. And this rent provides a long-term revenue source to support other Conservation Authority programs. In December of 2018, the Dam and Reservoir project was canceled, and the Conservation Authority plans to retain and continue to rent these agricultural properties to local farmers, but dispose of the surplus farm dwellings. The Conservation Authority is not in the business of maintaining and renting residential properties, but was in that business for some time because of the ownership of these properties in anticipation of the now canceled dam project. So the Conservation Authority, through this application, wants to continue to use this as an opportunity for demonstrating and supporting best management practices, but again, also as an opportunity to maintain this long-term rental source. Next slide, please. And so the proposed county official plan amendment applies to 5 properties, 4 of which are in Perth South and 1 in West Perth. They range in size from about 28 hectares up to 180 hectares in size. All of the properties are designated agriculture according to the official plan, with natural resources and other designations on portions of some of the other properties. And as you can see, all the properties are in the same area, with the exception of the Wildwood property, as you can see on the slide to the in the bottom right side of the slide. Next slide, please. And so we've set out some key considerations in support of approving OPA 193. Again, this is a very unique circumstance wherein we're asking for special consideration. Again, this proposal is the result of the Conservation Authority's long-term assembly and ownership of these lands, and then, of course, the canceling of the dam and reservoir project. The councils of both West Perth and Perth South have recommended approval of OPA 193. The CA's proposal will contribute to the maintenance of rural housing stock and rural character. And we note that the approval of OPA 193 would continue to maintain the long-term agricultural use of these lands, and these large land holdings will be maintained. We remind council that the provincial policy statement must be considered in its entirety, and the proposal supports other policies under the policy statement. As noted in the staff report, OMAFRA has provided technical comments And we read those comments as providing some flexibility. They provide general technical direction, but leave it to local interpretation. As you know, the Conservation Authority pre-consulted with OMAFRA. The application was circulated to OMAFRA as part of the Planning Act and public meeting process, and no comments were received. County staff reached out to OMAFRA after the December meeting, and they provided these technical comments. And I should note that it really is a reiteration of the applicable provincial policy statement policies. I do note that on page 108 of the agenda, which is where the comments of OMAFRA are provided, starting on page 108. And when speaking to criteria for the definition of a residence surplus to a farming operation, they specifically say, and I quote here, in addition, for the purposes of the definition of a residence surplus to a farm operation, a farm is generally considered consolidated when a farmer owns more than one parcel of land to be utilized as part of their farming operation. And purchase or ownership of the farm parcel is generally necessary to satisfy the policy criterion. And so again, I read these comments as for providing some information and so on, but also I read it also as providing some flexibility with the comments with respect to generality and so on. I also want to note that in my view, the absence of previous approvals for relief from policies addressed under OPA 193 should not be a reason to not consider approving the Conservation Authority's request. As noted in the staff report, there have been exceptions granted to the policies of Section 5631 of the County Official Plan, but not to the subsections requested by the CA. But again, in my view, that's not a reason to not consider an exception to these policies in this very exceptional circumstance. Any concerns regarding this decision creating a precedent are unfounded. I understand those concerns expressed by certain members of council or others, but from a planning perspective, approval of this county official plan amendment would not set a precedent. It's related to a very unique circumstance, and every application is considered on its own merits. I also want to add that the Conservation Authority, following the December meeting, responded to a specific question or request raised at that meeting regarding the question of farm business registration numbers and its ability to obtain one in conformity with the county official plan. So the Conservation Authority did reach out to OMAFRA to inquire about the possibility of acquiring a license. And with respect to Section 5631F of the county official plan, as you know, there are two components. The first is the farm property on which a surplus farm dwelling is located must be eligible for a farm property class tax rate program. And all of these properties are eligible. However, the second component of that policy is that the property owner must have a valid farm registration number. Conservation Authority doesn't have one. I'm sure you're aware that all farm businesses that make $7,000 or more in gross farm income per year must register and obtain a farm business registration number. And specifically in the response that the Conservation Authority received, they said businesses or other entities that do not earn the required amounts of income from farming are not required or eligible to obtain a farm business registration number. However, in the response, OMAFRA also said, or specifically referenced in the situation with respect to the Conservation Authority and their properties and the leasing and so on, that the farmers that do lease these properties have valid farm business registration numbers and are carrying on farm businesses. So I just want to wrap it up, and I appreciate your time. And listen, I'm not going to ask you to entirely ignore your comments of staff. I think David, who prepared the report, and I have had a very good discussion, an exchange of opinions on this matter over the last few months. It's been a really good discussion, and it's a complex planning issue. And I understand where staff is coming from, and although there's disagreement, I think staff understands where the Conservation Authority is coming from in filing this application and arguing for special consideration. Myself, I have and I do work for municipalities, and as municipal staff, you provide your planning opinion to council, and you hope that council agrees with your opinion. But at times, councils make other decisions after considering staff's opinions, public opinions, and so on. And after looking at the matter in consideration of a number of factors. And so the Conservation Authority hopes that council will give due consideration to the request, will agree with the councils of West Perth and Perth South in supporting OPA 193, and today approve COPA 193 as requested. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Does Mr. Mackey have anything to add to that? And
I don't think he had anything prepared. Bill?
Thank you, Council. I just reiterate Mark's comments, and we were just hoping that we could have some consideration for severing and selling these, because and again, it's not our business. We do not have the funds to put into these homes to make them nice, really, really nice. We can do the basics, but and it would just be a shame to not see these homes made into beautiful homes. So our direction from the board was to divest ourselves from this business. So this was our first option, was to sell these homes and put them into private ownership. If that can't happen, we've explored every other option we can, I think, to try to get out of the business. We'll just have to take it back to our board, let them know the decision of Perth Council, and go to option 2, I guess. And I'm not quite sure what option 2 is. I have an idea, but we were just hoping this would happen. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Questions for either gentleman? Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions for I guess maybe Bill Mackey, and it's maybe more of a clarification than anything. Now, my understanding, and it came up at the previous meeting, that well, why don't you get rid of all the farmland? And I guess that's maybe possible. However, if you did get rid of the farmland and sold it to a farmer, they would come back and would likely be able to sever those houses without a problem, because they're probably going to be surplus to their needs. My question is, there's probably a good reason why you don't want to sever the farmland from previous, or goes back, I guess, to when funding was made available to acquire that farmland. I'm trying to say it as easy as I can without being really direct, but am I not correct in that?
Yes, our understanding is that if we sell those farms, that money from direction from the province would be set aside to purchase other lands. It would be more for capital than purchasing. Right now, in maintaining the land and renting it out, we can use that revenue we get from the land for operating to support other programs. I think if we sold it, we would lose that ability to use it for operating, and it would just be set in a separate budget for property acquisition. So it wouldn't serve the purpose it is now from the land lease money we get to it to offset other program costs.
Okay.
Right now, we rent it to local farmers. We tender every 5 years. It's always rented to the local people. yeah, we can't farm it ourselves, but there are local people farming it. So, yeah, you're correct. It would probably be able to be severed by someone if they purchased it, but then we would have no access to the money for our programs.
Okay,
I
I
don't know if
guess
that
that's,
answers your question.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of where I was coming from, Bill. So the bottom line, basically, if you sell the whole property, you're not able to use that money from those sales. So in fact, the revenue that you get now from rental would have to be made up basically from an increase in the levy. So, well, it'd have to come somewhere, and the levy is obviously the likely place where it would go. My second, I don't know if this is my second or third question, where we're at here. The condition of the houses, and you kind of mentioned in your presentation that they were good houses, and it's my understanding that they are really, they're not rundown shacks or anything, that they're fairly well maintained, very habitable residents.
Yeah, 4 of the 5 are leased right now. One is boarded up, but we've inspected it. It's structurally fine. Someone would be able to go in there and spend some money and get it right back to livable condition. There are some things, like we do up the basically, the roofs and windows and septic and stuff, but we don't have the extra money to put in. The people we have there now are long-term tenants. They're good tenants. But like I say, we can't put the money in to make the potential of the house as good as what a private person who owned it could do with it. They could put a lot more money in to make it a much nicer residence than what we will ever do. We're definitely not slum landlords. We're definitely not in a position to put a lot of money in to make them really beautiful properties either.
Okay,
But they all are livable. Yeah.
Okay, and my last question, and this kind of came up, I think, at the last presentation that you made. Your hands are kind of tied when it comes to revenue generated off the rental of these houses. Am I not right? Through, I'm trying to think of the name. Is it Rent Control Board comes to mind? But you're limited to because of the long-term existing rent, that you can't increase the rent to offset the revenue needed or offset the expenses that you have for these properties. Is that not right?
Yeah, like I mentioned, they were long-term residents, so we've had the same tenants for a number of years. When we first rented out to the folks, they were older farmhouse properties, not a lot of insulation. The rent was kind of come about based on local market for rural residential houses at the time. And then we basically go by the provincial government sets the rent every year. Now with the COVID, there was no rental increase this year. So we basically are bound by that 1, 2, 3, 4% increase every year. So, and you can have a larger increase if you do large capital improvements on the dwelling. You can try to recoup a little bit of that back and add it to your rent. But there again, because of finances, we have not done large capital improvements. So basically our rent is kept at a minimum on a monthly basis.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Hurlick, next.
How many realtors would be involved, or realtor companies, in selling this? How would that look?
The only time we have involved a realtor in our houses is if we have a vacancy, we would go to a realtor. Actually, we've gone to the local board chair for the Stratford Perth board, and we've hired them to find a tenant for us. They usually have a list of people looking for accommodation, and they do the interviewing, and they had a kind of a flat fee for us. And then they would find a tenant for us and fill out our application, go that way. So we don't, on a regular basis, deal with real estate agents at all. only when we were looking for tenants.
Now, when you sell these houses, what do you got in mind? How many levels of real estate are you going to bring in?
It hasn't got that far yet. We would go through some public process to sell the houses. In the past, we've sold some in the Fullerton area where we basically had open houses, and we've had a tender bid where people will have an appraisal done and people will basically submit a tender bid. We've had one at Wildwood a few years back. We actually did it by an auction. We had an auctioneer stand on the porch and auction the house off. We could go through a real estate agent. We haven't got that far. We just know it will be a public process. We haven't talked about what type of process yet.
Okay, great. And cleared up there in the event that, you know, these farms were to get sold, that money's got to be pursed and put away to buy more land, essentially.
Yes.
Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Bill, as an arm of the provincial government, do you pay taxes on these properties, farm and or house residential?
Yeah, we pay taxes on all our properties. Some are, it depends what it is. Like for something like that, we would pay a different rate for the residential part of it, like say 2 acres, and then the rest of it we would pay, say, the farm rate. A lot of it is managed forest rate, so we have a bunch of different rates that we pay on all of our 16,000 acres we own in the watershed, roughly.
Other questions? Not seeing any. We're getting some feedback here. Anyway, I would thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. And we're going to deal with this just a little later on here in the meeting. But at this point, I have a resolution. Perth County Council receives a presentation from Mark Stone, MLS Planning, Consulting, and Bill Mackey, Upper Thames Recreation Conservation Authority. Report to Council re OPA 193 for information. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Wright. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll move on to planning. And first up is the single tier planning services model and agreement. And we'll just get Sally up here.
I just stepped away. Are you all waiting for me?
Oh, we're just trying to get you up on screen. We got you, Sally, and you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going to pull up my slides. Very good. So we are on the planning service model, correct? I had to step away for 1 minute and I feel quite lost here for.
No, we're dealing with the single tier planning service model.
Very good. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, Warden Aitchison and members of council. We have talked about the service model a number of times. I just wanted to just go through sort of the process quickly and then wrap it up with our resolution today. So you'll recall that this project was really started by and undertaken by a working group made up of many of you on council and the CAOs of each of the lower tiers and the county. And that was supported with some work from staff as well. And the starting point really for everybody was identifying the need. So really what it boiled down to was about efficiency of service being available and responsive, but also a culture shift to collaboration and solution based approaches. And that's really been the foundation of the program that's been developed. And in your report, and for the public who has interest, the program document explaining how the nitty-gritty is meant to operate is part of the agenda package today. Through that process and through the discovery of the needs brought forward by all parties, change was already inspired throughout the year. So as the program was developing, we were able to also launch a new website, which was one of the key things. And we've engaged in a lot more and intentional mentoring and professional development for staff. And the other thing that we've done together through staff recommendations and council is some process improvements. And we've also been implementing more operational improvements within the department, and we'll continue to do so, certainly, as one of the key elements of the new service model. And with the new staff that we have on the ground now to support each lower tier. So what is the responsibilities of the service? What is the agreement that we're all coming to? Essentially, the work that's represented there is threefold. It's the development application review component and a cost recovery methodology for that. It's taking ownership of the update responsibilities and review responsibilities of our main planning documents, official plans, zoning, bylaws, and a tracking of our available land for growth and development planning, and also some community-based project work when specific needs are matched with resources within the department. So what does the day-to-day service look like? And that really boils down to a planner in each municipality being available on a regular basis and really building that local presence. And that planner be available to offer support, guidance to applicants, to staff, and recommendations to council on every type of application. So right through land division through to minor variance and site plan. And then the implementation of a centralized person here in our office to help us with notices and circulation materials to really keep that flow going and to make all of those things known on our website, as well as the circulation themselves and posting of signs, but also to perform the duties of a land division secretary. And this really gets at, planners doing the planning and other specialized folks being in place to do some of the more administrative and final approval type checks and balances. So that land division secretary role is quite important and currently being done by one of our planners. And this person would also become our webmaster. So as a main communication tool, getting to that goal of transparency and communication being part of the service that we want to provide. So what it boils down to when you look at the day-to-day activities, the long range work, and the goals set out by the working group and staff in the program is really a commitment. It's a commitment back between all the partners, the lower tiers, both leadership and staff. And it's a commitment to within the department for professional development and an intention toward using best practices in planning and keeping abreast of those things. It's about a continual desire for process improvement and functionality being key, and being responsive to municipal needs and changing priorities over time. So what is going on in our places throughout Perth County, and how do we respond to that? And certainly helping to resolve some of those issues through both policy and some specialized project work, and a commitment to performance measurement of the service, and to continually measure that through the collection of metrics, but also the collection of experience of people utilizing the service, and then a commitment to course correction and accountability for those activities. So the point we're at in this project now is pretty celebratory. It's a real show of partnership and of rebuilding and of collaboration, which has not only been our experience doing this with the working group and staff, but also just a true display of the needs identified at the outset, that we would work together to build a service that works for people. So we're at this stage now where we've arrived at a recommendation that Perth County Council authorize the signing of the agreement between the county and the lower tiers. And it's a wonderful point to be at, and certainly want to express gratitude and congratulations to everyone on that working group for getting to this point. So I'll leave you with that recommendation, and if there are still questions about the program and the service, I'm certainly happy to talk about it, ad nauseum, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks, Sally. If we could get the shared screen down, then I can see all the faces. Perfect. Questions for Sally or comments? Oh, must have done a great job there, Sally, because I don't see any hands going up. Anyway, I have a motion here that Perth County Council receive the report entitled Single Tier Planning Services Model and Agreement for Information, and that Perth County Council authorize the warden and chief administrative officer to sign the service agreement between the county and each of the lower tiers. Moved by Councillor Kazenberg, second by Councillor Kellum. Any more comments or questions? Walter?
Well, it's just a comment, and Sally kind of mentioned it, but I just think that it's a great end to a lot of hard work that's been involved in bringing this thing forward. And I think the committee, but especially the staff, deserve a lot of credit for the amount of work and time that they put into this. And I think the end result is really worthwhile. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks, Walter. We have a motion on the floor. Those in favor of that motion? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And Sally, I just want to also express my gratitude for all your hard work and the rest of staff and the people on the committee to finally bring this to fruition. It's a great.
My pleasure. I'm really proud of what we achieved together.
Perfect. So next we're going to move on to the report concerning the application for the county official plan amendment. And are you doing that, Sally, or is David coming on? David's coming in as well.
Yep, we're going to share today.
Okay. Hello, David.
Good morning, Warden.
Okay, so we're ready for your report on the official planning amendment, or official plan amendment, OPA 193.
Okay. Thank you, Warden Aitchison. Warden, members of County Council, good morning. I'm here today in response to a request that was provided by Council at its meeting on December 3rd, 2020, that directed planning staff to prepare a report to review surplus farm dwellings as they relate to conservation authorities in the context of this application, OPA 193. So to fulfill Council's request, planning staff undertook new research across several areas of interest as related to this application. Firstly, county staff did a poll of Ontario County planning departments to determine whether or not another department in Ontario had dealt with a similar type of situation for an amendment to a surplus farm dwelling severance policy in their official plan. So out of that poll of departments, 2 leads emerged, and both of these leads related to Bruce County. And so the first example that we found from Bruce County dealt with an official plan amendment where an agroforestry operation sought to sever an existing farm dwelling as a surplus farm dwelling. In this case, the agroforestry operation only farmed approximately 20% of the property in question, being the woodlot area, and otherwise leased the remaining 80% or so of the property to another farm operator for tilling purposes. So in that case, Bruce County planning staff did find the application to be consistent with the PPS and supported the application for severance through an official plan amendment in that case. despite the fact that the farm operator only farmed that portion of the property pertaining to the woodlot in that case, and otherwise leased the balance of the lands. In the second example that we found from Bruce County, this second example for a similar official plan amendment involved a farmland investment trust and property management firm. This farmland investment company was in the business of acquiring farmland across Ontario and further abroad across the country, actually, and leasing their holdings to actual farm operators. In this case, the investment firm sought to sever an existing farm dwelling as a surplus farm dwelling, despite the fact that the property in question they leased to another farm operator and were not directly engaged in the practice of farming themselves. In that case, Bruce County planning staff actually recommended denial of the application on the basis that it was not consistent with the PPS, given that the owner in question was not a farm operator themselves and not directly engaged in the activity of farming. So those are the two examples that we found that through our poll of county planning departments across Ontario that we felt had some context to the application that we're dealing with today. Next, county planning staff did reach out to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs as well as OMAFRA, and we did a consultation with both ministry staff representatives at the end of January. Out of that emerged technical comments, which were alluded to earlier by Mr. Stone in his presentation, and which are also attached to our report today as scheduled to the report. So the technical comments that we received from OMAFRA staff reaffirm that the severance of farm dwellings may only be considered as part of farm consolidation by farm operators through ownership. And just further discussions with the province with both ministries suggested that neither were aware of any allowances being made in Ontario for the severance of an existing farm dwelling in the case where the owner in question is not a farm operator of some kind. Lastly, the last point of our research related to our own jurisdiction, Perth County. We look back in time, going back since November of 2016, which is the general point in time when the existing surplus farm dwelling severance policy that we have today came into place. So since late 2016, the County of Perth Council has adopted 6 official plan amendments to the surplus farm dwelling severance policy. Of those 6, 5 related to relief with respect to both the subject property and the farm operation being located within the County of Perth. So there was 5 instances where severance was permitted on a property within the County of Perth, whereas the consolidating farm operation was otherwise not located in the county boundaries. And the 6 OPA, one of the 6 of the OPAs that were granted related to severance of a farm dwelling that was recently destroyed by fire while an application was midstream, and that particular application was in the township of Perth East. So to summarize, county planning staff hereby reaffirm our original recommendation that was provided to council on December 3rd, 2020. We maintain that OPA 193 is inconsistent with section 2341C of the PPS, and that it is also inconsistent with the PPS definition of residence surplus to a farming operation, and therefore we maintain that the application should be denied. I would like to thank Mr. Stone and the staff at the UTRCA. They've been great to work with through this process, and understanding that we agree to disagree in this case, it has been a pleasure working with them on this application. And at this point in time, I would like to hand it off to our manager of planning just to say a few words on the matter as well, following which I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have regarding the application and our new report to council. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Sally.
Thanks, David, and through you, Warden Aitchison, to the members of council. Just wanted to offer some summary points, and sometimes, like in this case, the case of this application, we're faced with really competing interests, and it can be really hard when both of those interests are significant to the community that we work in. And with this application, the interests certainly appear to be limitations to the fragmentation of farmland and housing. And I think rental housing might perhaps be off the table either way, but it's housing nonetheless. And we also have a policy of which the intent is the greater good over the long term. And we also have the independent choice of property owners to manage their assets. And neither of those are wrong, obviously. They're just different. And so it's important, I think, to be clear and to express that as planners, we see the different points of view on this matter. And it's important to say that we acknowledge those different points of view, and we acknowledge the different roles that people play in providing recommendations and in making decisions. And that I just wanted to be clear that we did consider all of the points brought forth by both the Conservation Authority and their planner. And so having said that, the juxtaposition of the things that we see in this application and the competing interests in our community, staff have offered answers to the questions that arose through your deliberations. And as well, we offer a recommendation that is founded in policy. And as David said, we're happy to answer any more questions that you might have and recognize this is a challenging decision to make.
Thanks, Sally. Okay, questions or comments from council? Councillor Wilhelm.
Thank you. And I cannot disagree with the staff report based on Perth County's policy on surplus farmhouse severances. I was on council when this policy was written, and we knew at the time that it would not cover all circumstances that would come up, and hence I believe the staff is currently revising that policy. The intent of the policy was to maintain the stock of row houses to support schools and the community, and not to remove agriculture land from production. This application does meet this requirement, and as most know, I sit on the committee for affordable and attainable housing, and we had a meeting last night on it. As I see some faces that were there last night, and my thinking, and we are going to probably in the next meeting or two have planning come forward to discuss things at this committee level. But I believe that this application would be in keeping what this committee was formed for, to maintain housing. And I think we should support this application to prove that we're not just paying this committee lip service. And that's what I think. If we reject this, why do we have the committee?
Councillor Agates.
I take offense to the fact that they're telling us that if we don't approve this, they're going to tear the houses down. That's not what this is about. This is about whether these houses can be severed off the properties, not about whether they're going to tear them down if we don't allow it. So I don't like that comment. They made that at the very first presentation they made. If we allow this, there are other people who own a house in town and a farm. They don't own two farms, and they're not allowed to sever off their house. So if we allow this, then you're going to have to start allowing them as well. If you don't think the province isn't going to sit up and listen when they see this come through their door, that we've allowed someone to sever off houses who don't meet our criteria, then I think you're wrong, because they jumped up and down when we had a parcel that was 1 acre that we wanted, that's been in lawn, and because it's zoned agricultural, they put in a grievance, and I think they will be here too. So I am willing to support staff's denial of this application. Thank you.
Councillor McDermott.
I support them getting rid of the houses, but as a farmer, talking to people when this land was assembled, it evidently wasn't very pretty. They do not any longer have this dam on the books. And I think this land should go back to farmers where it rightfully belongs. This is not in their core mandate to be farmers. So I am supporting this application.
Councillor Hurley.
Now, that being said, today, a couple things were cleaned up and are cleared up. One of them being is, you know, they sell this farmland. They can't use that money at will, like they're an arm of the province and they're dictated what they can do with that money. It has to purchase more property from what I understand. So here's another new thing. Now, the houses too, I know the reason why they're considering tearing them down is because maintenance needs to be done, weeping beds, and they have to budget for that. And it sounds like they can't even do that. Is that right? And I right there, Sally.
I think what Mark offered and what Bill offered was that they are able to provide the basic maintenance on the properties, but certainly not to the level that they feel the properties are owed. And so they're divesting of them for many reasons, but that's one of them.
Councillor Hurley.
Oh, again there, and my thoughts there, again, as this all comes in, it is more unique than I originally thought. And here we are again. They sell this farmland. They have to keep this money in reserve. Am I correct, Sally? To purchase more land, right? And that's it, nothing else.
Councillor McDermott.
Yeah, the money, if it would go into a land reserve fund, that would just allow them to buy land that would come up for sale that would be more toward they're into conservation. So you could buy, if there was land coming up and it was say a swamp or something like that, they could then use that money for to buy that land. So it's not like the money's disappearing or not going anywhere. They will be able to use it in the future. And again, this was farmland. It should go back to the farmers.
Councillor Higgins, once more.
Yes, thank you. I'm not understanding why we're worrying where their money's going, what they're doing with this land. We're looking at whether or not they meet the criteria to sever off the houses. And that's the only part we should be looking at. What they do with the money, what they do, and anything else, that's their organization. That's not on us. So we need to look whether they meet the criteria, and unfortunately, they don't.
Councillor Kazenberg.
Well, as this council knows, I'm passionate about affordable housing and attainable housing in our midst. To that, though, I'm not convinced that these homes, if severed, would be that. So that's not an issue or a factor in my consideration in this particular matter. I agree with Councillor Eggerts. I think, you know, the fundamental here is what do we do with the policy of both our official plan and its intent and its actual wording, and what do we do with regards to the provincial policy statement and guidance from the province about these matters. And to me, I trust our staff. They've brought forward a report which brings their professional opinion to the table, and I think it's our obligation to support that.
Other comments, questions? Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm having a really tough time with this one because it's a completely unique situation, and the province offers no mechanism to solve the problem. So here we sit as a council, you know, being dropped in our lap, saying, you know, you solve the problem, and like Council Eggerts alluded to, if we do solve the problem and say, yeah, go ahead and do it, the province is going to say, no, you can't do that because there's no policy mechanism to allow that to happen. So I don't see a win either direction, no matter what we do on this one, other than potentially we lose housing stock in our rural areas. And I don't see that as a good thing either. So like I said, I 100% agree with staff's assessment of the policies. They're 100% right there. But when the province leaves us no mechanism through the provincial policy statement to address a situation like this, then there's a problem. I guess that's all I can really say about that.
Good comments. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Ike.
It would have been really interesting for David when he asked Bruce County, when the Conservatory of Land, if they kept that house or tore it down, when they couldn't get a severance up there in Bruce County. Because if you drive around Bruce County, and you'll all, everybody on here will remember CanAgra. There's vast tracts of land where they tore all the buildings down. Tens of thousands of acres in Bruce County and Northern Huron County. So I only look at this as what I would consider to be doing the right thing for Perth County. Of course, I would vote to deny it and let them sever them, because I would rather see 5 houses with good bones. And I don't care if they tear them down, because it's just $10,000 we can say that the next taxpayer has to pick up, right? That's why I asked the question if they pay taxes, because, you know, schools and churches, they don't pay taxes, and these guys are an arm of the provincial government. So are we doing the right thing? We can sever a house that hasn't been lived in for 10 or 15 years, and the building inspector can go in and say it's livable, although there's no shingles on the roof. We've been changing the policy that was set, I believe David said, in 2016. And we fought, like they fought for years to get farmhouse severances. And then all at once, suddenly once we got it, now we're changing it, massively changing it. Sally's been changing it since she got here. So I either look at, am I doing the right thing for Perth County, or am I worried about the province? Well, I'm not worried about the province because it's the poorest run organization there is. But I think it's best for Perth County to allow homes to be severed. I drive up around Drayton. I've told you this. There's farms up there that have 8 or 9 houses on, monster houses. How did that get through the provincial policy statement out in the country? Brand new, 5 years old. North of Drayton, you turn down a side road there, there's $10 million homes on one farm. So I don't know which policy statement we go by, but obviously not everybody's under the same one, right? Because those houses get allotted. Big houses, there's one up in, right now there's a severance up in Huron County where it says, by Clinton, where you can build a second house on it after it's severed the first one off. Their policy allows a second house to be built on this one. It's right by the Hullet Swamp if you want to look it up on the internet. So I just look at it a different way, what's best for Perth County and us, as opposed to everybody else's, what their concerns are.
Okay, anybody else? Well, I have 2 motions in front of me. One is to approve and one is to deny. So I'm going to ask for council to give me one to read off and we'll vote on it. Councillor Agates.
I'll move the one that we deny.
Is there a seconder for that motion? That would be Councillor McDermott. So I'm going to read the full motion for you. That County Council received the update report concerning application for county official plan amendment by MLS Planning Consulting on behalf of Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, OPA 193 for information. And County Council denied the application for official plan amendment by MLS Planning Consulting on behalf of Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, OPA 193 for property described as part of lots 2 to 4, concession 15, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, and for property described as part lots 19 to 24, concession 11, parts of lot 20 to 24, concession 12, Gore of Downey, Township of Perth South, and for property described as part of lots 29 to 31, East Mitchell, concession Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth, as it is not consistent with section 2.3.4.1 of the PPS or the PPS definition of residence surplus to a farming operation. So I have a mover and a seconder. Last chance for a kick at the cap before I ask for a vote. Counselor Wilhelm, you want to say something?
Can I have a recorded vote?
Sure. That'll make it easier for me than me counting hands.
Yep.
And I'll have Tyler read off the names and vote on it.
Perfect. So through the warden, I'll go through the names. If you could give me a yay or a nay, we'll go through that. So Counselor Herlick,
Nay.
Counselor Kellum,
Nay.
Counselor Wilhelm,
Nay.
Counselor Wright,
Nay.
Mayor.
Counselor Agates,
Yay.
Did she say yay?
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Kasenberg,
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie,
Sorry about that. Nay.
Counselor McDermott,
Yes.
Counselor Duncan,
No.
That's a vote.
and Warden Aitchison.
No. So read up the tally there. And this is on a weighted thing, so
So we would have 12 for the nay and 6 for the yay. So it'd be
Okay.
defeated on a recorded vote.
so that motion is denied on a 12-6 weighted vote. So that brings me to the other motion I have. That county council, and I'm not going to read the entire thing again, but the difference would be the county council approved the application for an official plan amendment by MLS Planning for OPA 193. And do I have a mover and a seconder on that one? That's moved by Counselor Wilhelm, second by Counselor McKenzie. And would you like a recorded vote again?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Makes it easy.
Okay, Tyler.
Counselor Herlick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Kellum,
Yes.
Counselor Wilhelm,
Yes.
Counselor Eit,
Yes.
Counselor Agates,
No.
Counselor Kasenberg,
No.
Counselor McKenzie,
Yes.
Counselor McDermott,
No.
Counselor Duncan,
Yes.
and Warden Aitchison.
Yes. So it's the exact same vote. 12-6, correct? Okay, so that is approved on a recorded vote of 12-6 based on the weighted vote. So that ends that discussion for now. I'm sure we'll hear more on it. Thank you. Anything else to add there, Sally? No, she's gone. David, anything to add? He's shaking his head no. Okay. Thank you. We will move on to the economic development and the PC Connect update as soon as we get Maggie on here.
Jim?
Yep.
Or Mr. Warden, just so you realize, Sally lost her audio and haven't been able to hear C.I.'s comments trying to catch it on YouTube. So she wasn't able to hear, I don't think, the end of this. She's on the chat line.
We'll get a hold of her.
Okay.
Thanks, Counselor Wright. Okay, I see we've got Maggie just about connected. And she is connected. Hi, Maggie. We're ready for your report.
Awesome. So through the warden, I'd just like to provide a very brief overview on the PC Connect and our operations throughout the month of January. So as per the Reopening Act, transportation services were recognized as essential. So PC Connect did continue to operate responsibly throughout the provincial-wide shutdown. So we have continued to enforce all of our COVID-19 precautions, which include 50% reduced capacity, mandatory masks, increased sanitization practices, and accessible hand sanitizer on all of our fleet. So in addition to these precautions, all of our marketing efforts have been placed on hold, and all of our communications are focused on encouraging essential travel only. So we are working with the local health unit to determine an appropriate timeline to resume our marketing efforts. However, at this time, our organic messaging continues to be consistent with the provincial guidelines to stay home and to stay safe. So as expected, our ridership across all PC Connect routes has decreased throughout the provincial lockdown. So our total ridership was down approximately 24% from December, with 43 riders on Route A and only 10 riders on Route B. So to date, Perth County's routes have serviced a total of 162 residents. So given the initial interest and demand in the service, we are confident that we will be able to regain our ridership and continue our growth as soon as it is safe and responsible to resume our marketing efforts. So in addition to the 162 riders that we have serviced to date, we've also pre-sold 780 tickets to social service organizations throughout the county and the surrounding areas. So PC Connect is clearly a huge asset to these organizations and their clients. So we plan to continue to work very closely with our not-for-profit and social service organizations to service their needs and continue to build our customer base. So Voyago has received our new fleet, which is very exciting. So we are working on having them branded, and we hope to have them on the road within the next few weeks. So in terms of our routes, we will be making a few modifications, which we will roll out when we start to operate our new fleet. So our operational data shows that we have been running slightly behind schedule. So in order to be more reliable and on time, we will be adding 10 minutes to each route, each run on each route. So in order to do so without going over our allocated operation time of 16 hours a day, we will be removing a run from Route B and scaling it back to a total of 4 runs per day, which it was originally planned to be. So both routes will have 4 runs a day when we roll out these new enhancements. So just quickly in terms of our budget, PC Connect is currently operating under our initial forecasts due to the delay in launch and of course the hold on all of our marketing efforts. So the surplus from this operating year has been reallocated to consecutive funding years. So a copy of the budget has been included for your reference, and I'm happy to answer any further questions regarding the budget or any other project aspect.
Thank you, Maggie. We also have Justin up on the screen there now, I see. So does anybody have any questions for Maggie or Justin at this point in time? I'm not seeing any hands moving. Okay, well, thank you very much. I have a motion that Perth County Council receives the PC Connect January update report for information. Moved by Councillor Kellum, second by Councillor Wilhelm. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Mr. Mike Adair and Chris Kaiser coming on too.
Just Mike.
Just Mike?
I believe so.
Okay, so we'll get Mike up on here. I'm thinking about 10:30 we might take a quick break. I don't think we're going to be done, so as soon as we get Mike up here. And there he is. Hi, Mike.
Here I am. Hi, everybody.
So we're ready for your report.
Okay, thank you. So through the warden, good morning, council. This report is, well, I guess it's 2 pages, but pretty quick and brief. We have an opportunity that's in front of us to receive $35,000 of funding to apply to our existing community paramedic mobile integrated health program. And this comes through the avenue of Huron Health Care, the Huron Perth Healthcare Alliance. And really, that's what this report's about, is one, to receive the report, and then two, the recommendation is that we approve the receiving of that $35,000 to be applied to our funding. I turn your attention to the background information. There's two areas that we would apply this funding to. One of them is with respect to the Frail Senior Strategy, which is part of our high intensity care funding that we receive from the province. The hospital also receives some funding, so they would like to allocate some hours to us to work with their nurse practitioners. I feel that that is something that we are already doing. It just enables us to put more hours into that area of the program. And the second piece, which is newer to us, and again, it's something that we can do working with these nurse practitioners, is scale some hours, and it's really only until the end of the March, but it's for persons through the form of a clinic, and it's for persons who are at risk of homelessness and experiencing mental health and addiction challenges. And they also don't have access to primary care. So the objective is to get them access to primary care and also to support them in their time of need. And so we would apply those hours to working in those clinics, and that aligns nicely with some of the work that we're trying to do with respect to mental wellness in our community, and also goes back to the report that we received on February 4th regarding from Dr. Deacon regarding the rural response to COVID-19. So with all of that in mind, moving forward, if you have any questions with respect to this, I would be happy to answer them now and have that dialogue.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike on his report? Councillor Kazenberg.
Thanks, Mike, for the interesting opportunity. Any sense of sort of long-term sustainability of this?
Certainly, you're right, with the $10,000 of funding, there's not any commitment from the province in terms of the long-term sustainability aspect of it. However, the provinces, as we all know, the budget, the fiscal year ends at the end of March, so it'll be interesting to learn what may end up happening in April. So, I think our opportunity here lies in trying some of these things, seeing what the impacts are in the community, and we want to be able to be nimble enough that we can scale it up. And with this small amount of funding, I thought we would be able to at least do that and see what kind of impact that we might have within our community, so we can research that. And it goes back to Councillor Herlich's comment. I think it was maybe last council or maybe one previous about mental wellness, and we need to do something, and this is one of those moments in time where we have an opportunity, but it's a really important aspect of our program as we move forward, because we're continually looking for that longer term funding. And right now, a lot of the funding that we have for the high intensity ends at the end of March, and same thing with this pocket of funding as well. So I just don't know.
Councillor Kazenberg.
Sorry, one supplemental. Thank you. With regards to looking towards sustainability, I would assume that there are some key impact metrics that you are intending to collect in the brief period. Can you comment on those things that you will be measuring to see what kind of impacts have been had?
Yes. So with our high intensity funding that we're actually that's in place right now, we have a list of key metrics that I don't have in front of me right now, but some of them are patients that we were able to support, how long we have those persons under our care, and also number of visits are sort of like the primary ones. In terms of the ones specifically for the frail seniors, again, it will be how many people we connect to primary care healthcare providers. There were some statistics that were in there that we've have 26 patients that have been already referred to primary care providers, but there is still a need out there. So there's 96 patients rostered. So yes, we do have, we will continue to collect that data, and with the hospital program in terms of the clinics, we can also report that back to council as well, all of their statistics. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mike? Not seeing any hands. Just double checking. No. Okay. Thanks, Mike. I have a motion here that Perth County Council receives the primary care nurse practitioner program and Perth County Paramedic Service Partnership, Urine Perth Health Alliance funding opportunity, report for information, and that council approve receiving the funding allocated by HPHA to be applied to Perth County Paramedic Services Mobile Integrated Health Programming. Moved by Councillor Kazenberg, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. Last chance for questions or comments. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thanks, Mike. Just so you know, we had a pre-budget consultation with Randy and Rudy last week. Councillor Agats, Wilhelm, and I were involved in that. One of the things that I kept mentioning, I mentioned it the Tuesday too, was more funding for mental health initiatives. And I see that actually made Randy's press release last night. So perhaps maybe with any luck, we may come up with some more money to be able to do more in that area.
That's great. All of this does help with the program. We have a base of 42 hours a week right now, but we have essentially tripled that with ministry funding at the moment, and we're ready to scale up or scale down based on where we land. But the base funding is something that is, was approved previously by council, and we'll continue with that program, and we'll modify as we move forward, and we continue to create those pathways. And there may come a time where we can certainly seek council's help in communicating what those specific needs for our province will be, because I want to make sure that Perth County is continues to be within the forefront of their minds, and that we have equal opportunities for ourselves as other services do across the province as well. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the time, aren't we? Yeah, we got time for the climate change. And then we'll have a quick break after that. So we are going to have John McClellan on, the Climate Change Coordinator Extension, and additional information. And as soon as we get John up.
Chris Snell also.
And I believe Chris Snell's going to join us as well, right? We have John. We don't see Chris. And there's Chris. Okay, we're going to start with the climate change report here. So I'm not sure whether you want to start it, John, or Chris wants to do it, or I'll let you guys control what you want to present.
Great. Thank you, Warden Aitchison. Good morning, Council. This report is additional information and the work plan for the Climate Change Coordinator as requested by Council at the last Council meeting. As Warden Aitchison has stated, I'd just like to acknowledge Chris Snell, CAO of North Perth, who's joining us today. Should Council have any further questions regarding the request to extend the contract of the Climate Change Coordinator. The report before you provides greater detail of the accomplishments and the entire work plan of the coordinator, and is supplemental to the February 4th report that is attached for your reference. I would like to highlight or clarify a couple of items in the report. When the coordinator started in 2019, she was immediately tasked with additional work outside of the original scope. This was updating all 7 municipalities' conservation and demand management plans. For the county, this was much more than an update, and it involved the coordinator incorporating the 3 new facilities that the county had: archives, paramedic services HQ, and the Mitchell Public Works Garage into the original plan. Next, obviously, the major scope of work for the climate change coordinator is to develop a community-wide greenhouse gas emission reduction plan. I can now report that the coordinator has completed the plan in draft format and that the staff steering committee will be reviewing this in the next week or so. The coordinator is also looking and plans to present to all 7 councils during the month of March. One other point, when council deferred the decision on February 4th, there was an article in the Beacon Herald which caught the attention of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and Municipalities for Climate Innovation Program, which manages the funding of this program. The funding manager acknowledged that many of the municipalities that received the climate change staff grant have been delayed in delivering their milestones due to COVID restrictions and resulting shift in municipal priorities. However, our coordinator is still on track to complete her milestones, with the exception of obtaining council approval for the GHG plan. Her progress and accomplishments to date are in a good spot compared to other funding recipients. And finally, I can confirm that the funding for the climate change coordinator is extended until March 31st, 2021, and this will reduce the 2021 salary costs to each partnering municipality for the extension request of the climate change coordinator. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. Any questions for John at this point? We have Chris on the line, so does anybody have any questions for Chris? Councillor Agates.
Got a question, more of a comment. Excuse me. I do understand the importance of this, what we're doing here, but I also want more information as time goes on. I asked for data. We didn't get data. I'm going to support the resolution, but I think going forward, we need more reports to come from North Perth. We need more information of what's going on and what she's working on. Sorry, it's my dog. We have a list of what they're going to do in the next year, but I'd like progress reports and I'd like to see what they're doing. There's groups in our community that are having her come and meet with them, and I don't even know what she's telling them because we're not told anything. So I would like a bit more information. So if we could have that in the next little while, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Councillor Hurlick.
No, I'm going to echo Rhonda's comments for sure. As I read this report there, my mind busies up a little bit. There's a lot of consulting, that's for sure, and a lot of talking and thinking actions, if you would. I look what we do as council and county and the lower tiers on a regular basis, working back and forth, efficiency reports, department reviews to ensure that we're operating efficient and environmentally friendly. The work that Sean does on a regular basis around salting and what we all do the last 30 years, the work that's put into designing buildings and heat control, thermostats, windows. And there sure is a lot of consulting here and a lot of talking and a lot of wheels spinning, but I hope we see, I would like to see monthly reports. It's very important what they're talking about, and thank you. I was hoping a little more technical, not the think tank approach that seems to be going on, and he's just thinking. And we're going to consult and we're going to talk. And it's a little frustrating, but I will support. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Well, I'm going to make a quick comment. So one of the reasons you haven't seen a lot of information after I was doing some investigating, and Chris now can correct me if I'm wrong. So they have basically got all their information gathered, collected, and analyzed. The reason we haven't seen any yet is it hasn't actually got to the steering committee yet. And John alluded to that in his presentation. That's going to happen in the next week or so, John. And then from there on, there will be reports to all the councils. And I think there were presentations made to other areas, but they were basically just regards to the scope of what they were trying to achieve, not necessarily what came out of the surveys and whatnot, if I'm not correct. Chris, would that be correct?
That's correct. So really, as John explained, one of the first projects he did was our energy and conservation demand projects for all 7 municipalities, which took up a fair amount of space. But really, the first part of the program, and it was initially designed like this, was just to collect the data on our emissions as they stand today. And then second of all, basically go through a public consultation exercise, which the survey was a large part of that just because of COVID. There was originally a plan to have a ton of public meetings, but that couldn't happen. Now she did meet with a number of community groups through this type of technology when permitted. But really, the first phase of this was to gather the data and then bring back a report, which is, as John said, is in draft format right now.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Any other comments, questions? I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the Climate Change Coordinator Extension additional information and work plan report for information. And that Perth County Council direct the county to enter into a new local partnership agreement with the municipality of West Perth, Township of Perth East, Township of Perth South, Municipality of North Perth, Town of St. Mary's, City of Stratford for the shared services of the Climate Change Coordinator for the period of March 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, with the potential for extension into 2022, that the county's portion of the climate change coordinator costs be funded by the levy stabilization reserve. Moved by Councillor Kazenberg, second by Councillor Kellum. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to take a 5 to 7, 8 minute break for those who want to get up and stretch and use facilities or whatever. It's very dry in here and it's like we're sitting in a refrigerator, so I have to get up and move. Anyway, we'll be back in about 8, 9 minutes.
Even these days, Johnny.
We're good? Okay, welcome back, gentlemen, ladies. I got a couple to come back online here. Who are we missing? Doug? No, Doug's there. Doug's there.
Councillor McKenzie.
Oh, there's Councillor McKenzie. Perfect. Okay, we're all back in business here. And right now we're going to go to 8.1, and that is the appointment for the Perth Hospital or Healthcare Unit, or I should say, Perth. Thought I did that in reverse. Anyway, so we have received the resignation from Councillor Hurlick from that position, so we do need to reappoint someone. And I guess I'm basically looking for anyone who's interested. Councillor Kazenberg, you were the last time. Would you be interested again, or no? Yes?
I am willing. Certainly it, you know, it is a busy role, that one, but I am willing to serve again if it's council's wish.
Okay, anyone else?
I would support Councillor Kassenberg's request. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I've got a motion here. Perth County Council receives the resignation from Councillor Hurlick from the Perth Public Health Board, from the Health Board of Health, and the council approves Councillor Kazenberg to be appointed to the Perth Public Health Board of Health. Moved by Councillor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Ait. Those in favor? Carried. That's taken care of. And under new business, we're also going to deal with 5.4. Councillor Hurlick asked that be pulled.
Good to go there. Yeah, no, it's an interesting, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of dumbfounded at this, is where the province is going with this. Has any members of council heard any more on why they want to shut this college? It just, has anybody got anything? I think we need to reach out to Randy Pettipies and ask for some more information on the reasoning behind closing this. I see this going back 20 years ago to the Mike Harris days when they iced off to conservation authorities, and well, look where that went. Everybody calling their own shots. I always thought this was a really good ran college, and now I just don't know how they're going to cover it or what they got in mind. Anybody else hear anything? I'd be willing to reach out. I think as council, we need to ask some more questions on this. What's the reasoning? And if we could get a report from the peace office, that would be great.
Councillor Kasenberg?
We had the opportunity actually to hear from Chief Smith at North Perth Council meeting about this matter, and North Perth Council did pass a resolution supporting a note from another municipality that had resolved to petition the province to reverse its decision.
Anyone else? Actually, in Perth South that night, we had the same discussion. We didn't actually officially pass a motion to support it, but we were definitely looking for answers. And I believe there's a fire board meeting coming up shortly, and that was going to be part of the discussion. And then maybe we would ask for further support. Anyway, do you have something else to say, Councillor Hurlick?
No, I guess not. We'll wait it out then. We'll wait till the fire board meeting, and yeah, maybe at that point we need to take a stiffer stance, or maybe they're up to something we don't know. But thanks.
Well, it's up to you now. Like, you can actually pass a motion now if you want to proceed with this. Councillor Kellum had his hand up first.
Yes, totally agree with Mayor Kasenberg, or sorry, Councillor Kasenberg, and with Councillor Hurlick's. We did have that motion that come through, and I think we do need to support this as a county and as a past firefighter. So let's move forward on this and not put it behind. Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to make that a motion?
I will.
I'll second it.
And Daryl Hurlick, Councillor Hurlick's going to second that. So I don't actually have that exact motion in front of me. So I believe Sean's going to put that up on the screen for us, just so we're very clear in what we're doing. And I can't read that from here. Okay, so everybody sees that motion on the screen. Most of you have already had a chance to read it once, if not twice. And we have a motion by Councillor Kellum and seconded by Councillor Hurlick to support that motion we're showing on the screen. Any further comments or questions? Okay, if you want to drop that down, Sean. Okay, now I can see again. Those in favor of that motion? That's carried unanimously, actually. Perfect. Okay, other things, other business, there's something I'm going to bring up, and it's regarding the opening of the courthouse. I just wondered what your thoughts on that were now that we're in orange color. I know Perth South, excuse me, opened their office as of yesterday. So I'm thinking we should be opening ours up to some degree, most specifically for POA. And I see Arnie, the prosecutor, is actually in the office today. So I'm just, any further thoughts, comments? You got a chance to comment now, Lori? You want to say something?
Thank you, through the warden, just to help council with their consideration of this matter. In discussion with Linda Becker, the manager of POA services, it would be beneficial for us to be open just in terms of the service of that particular clientele.
Okay, any comments or questions from council? So we will, do I see it? There's a hand up? Councillor Kasenberg?
I think what we should decide to some degree as well is whether we are, open more broadly. I appreciate that POA has services and a mandate. The question is, with regards to other county operations and people seeking services from other county stakeholders, should we continue to maintain essentially an appointment-based only state at the courthouse?
Counselor Agates, before we get a response here.
So Perth East is opening our doors as of Monday, the 22nd, just like, and I know you mentioned Perth South did it yesterday. If people want to meet face-to-face with staff, they need to make an appointment, building or whatever. If they want to come in and pay a bill, they can come into the office, to the desk, and they can do that. Not all staff are going to be back in the office. Some, they're still, I think, going to be on a rotating base, because I said to have everybody not in the office and suddenly everybody together, we're going to do it gradually. But I believe too that we probably maybe do at the county what they call a soft opening. If somebody wants to meet with planning, then they need to make an appointment. They just don't show up or anything like that, but they still could come in and pay their fines or whatever else they need to do at POA.
Councilor Hurley.
No, City of Stratford is doing the same thing, basically a soft opening where people can come in who pay taxes the old way yet and stuff. They're smoothing into it as well. So I believe we need to, proceed with a soft opening.
Lori, you had some comments?
Yes, through the warden, for council, agree with the soft opening. We are ready at archives to go back to the just before lockdown on how we deal with our clients. And we have a protocol here for POA. So the same with planning for the appointment. That the safety of the staff certainly is a priority. So we do have procedures in place, and we will be ready for a soft launch.
Okay, so we will be doing a soft opening here. Probably, this is Thursday, we'll probably say as of Monday.
Monday, yeah.
And just so you're all aware, we still have 2 security guards at the back door. And we've gone from a 1-page form to a 3-page form because it took me forever to get in here today.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, checking and scanning and trying to be safe. Anyway, that's what we'll do, an announcement as a soft opening as of Monday.
We will.
I just thought of Councilor Agates.
For staff and council, is it possible to do the app? We have an app at Perth East that we go on to when we're going to go into the office, or staff is going to go into the office, and it's exactly like the paper form that you have? Or is
The staff actually do that. I haven't put it on mine yet because I'm only here twice a month for the most part. But then we also have the people accessing POA and everything that have to be screened as well. So we still
Well,
have.
I realize that. They would have to fill it out, but staff and council could just show them your smartphone and keep going.
Well, these guys back here, they know me quite well now, but I still fill the form out. Anyway, okay, we're gonna move on. Bylaws.
Council reports.
Oh, yes, sorry. Council reports first. Anybody, anything under council reports? Not seeing bylaws. We have a few here. And I'm going to start with bylaw 3805-2021, a bylaw to adopt amendment number 193 to the County of Perth official plan. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the County of Perth, in accordance with the provisions in section 17 and 21 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, hereby enacts as follow: that amendment 193 to the County of Perth official plan consisting of the attached text and schedules is hereby adopted. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to proceed with the giving of written notice to the county's decision in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, and that this bylaw shall come into force and take effect on the final day of passing thereof. Be a first, second time reading on this 18th day of February 2021, and read a third time and finally passed this 18th day of December 2021. And just to refresh your memories, that is the decision regarding the Upper Thames. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Wilhelm. Those in favor? Oh, Councillor McKenzie has to say something.
Well, just a question, Jim. Maybe I didn't just hear you right, but when you were off the dates, did you say December?
No, I meant well, yeah, no. Yeah,
I
that's-
thought you said
that's on your
December.
December. It should be February. Very good, Walter. You're right on top of it. Okay, those in favor? Keep your hands up. It's carried. And next bylaw, 3806-2021. Be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 18th day of February, 2021. And that is the single tier planning agreement. Moved by just about anyone on the screen, Councillor Duncan, Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? I just lost you.
We're just gonna bring it up. I was gonna bring it up just to show the bylaw, but.
No. I think it's already passed. Those in favor? That's passed unanimously. And then I have bylaw 3807-2021 be ready first, second, and third time. And finally passed this 18th day of February 2021. And that's regarding the bylaw to amend, appoint members to committees and boards. Moved by Councillor Agate, second by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Perfect. Announcements. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. Any notice of motions? Not seeing any. So we have confirmatory bylaw 3804-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the county of Perth at its regular meeting held February 18th, 2021 is read a first, second, and third time and finally passed February 18, 2021. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm. Seconded by, they're trying to make us stay, Councillor Ait. Those in favor? Carried. And the last and most important one, that the council meeting be adjourned at 10:55. Moved by Councillor Hurlick, second by Councillor Kazenberg. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything today, and